Tonight, WCAX investigates crossover crashes.
Yeah, those are crashes when a car goes from one side of the interstate to the other. Now, as of September 3rd, there have been 9, including those. There have been 136 cross-median crashes on Vermont interstates since 2014. In 9 of those cases, another car got hit. 8 of those times head-on.
Now, that's what happened most recently on I-89 in Richmond on August 23rd. A driver whose truck went across the median died, and that's not the first case we've covered in that area. So tonight we're asking why the state doesn't have barriers up to prevent cars from crossing into oncoming traffic. We sent our Kat Villianzoni to investigate.
Each year for the past 5 years in Vermont, 20 to 30 cars have gone off one side of the interstate, crossed over the median, and then crashed on the other side. And when it happens on this stretch behind me, Richmond Rescue gets called out.
The highway is the most dangerous place that we respond to. I think people have no idea how dangerous the highway is.
Richmond Rescue Director of Operations Michael Shirella says cars don't crash across the median often.
But when they do happen, they tend to be significant.
Richmond Rescue knows better than others the deadly toll of crossover crashes. One of their own, EMT and father of 3 Brendan Cousineau, was hit head-on by a suicidal woman who drove across the road in Richmond in 2015. She lived. He died.
It's really just devastating for so many people.
Shirella says you can't put a value on the cost of these crashes for families of people involved.
I miss my uncle so much.
And there isn't any one reason drivers go off the road. Sometimes it's intentional. Other times, a medical emergency. Or it's a combination of inattention and impairment. Police say alcohol, speed, and inattention all contributed to this crash in August. A pickup truck went across the median, hitting another car. The driver of the truck died at the scene. His passenger and the driver of the other truck he hit were seriously injured, and the interstate was closed for hours. And while emergency crews were there, a semi also sideswiped a minivan. That's what Shirella calls a rogue incident.
Or you just have no idea it's coming, you have no time to react, and it's over before you even know it.
A close call for his crews who were working in that spot a short time before. He says while crossover crashes are rare, they demand more responder resources. He wants the state to look into a possible solution. Barriers to keep cars going in the same direction.
They can't cross over, they can't hit another car doing 100 miles an hour with their combined speeds, so it definitely reduces the number of serious injuries.
But guardrails aren't cheap. About $100,000 a mile, according to VTrans. Cable rails are less expensive, but still $50,000 a mile at the low end. So VTrans has installed them right now in spots where going off the road would put you in more serious danger, like on bridges, for instance. But almost everywhere else, it's just a grassy median. In many places, close enough for a car at highway speeds to cross it in seconds. I wanted to see where these crashes were happening to see how much it would cost to install barriers. And I expected to see a couple of hot spots. There are a few. In Colchester and Winooski, also in Richmond, and in Waterbury, Duxbury, also down here in Windsor. But what I did not expect was this. If you look at this map, you can see pretty much everywhere, except for spots from Milton through Franklin County and also from the Northfield to Randolph stretch here and maybe from Royalton to Hartford. Everywhere except those, there's been at least one crossover crash in the last 6 years. So to install barriers everywhere would cost big bucks.
It's not just going out and pounding guardrail posts in the ground.
VTrans operations and safety engineer Bruce Nyquist says what people don't realize is that guardrails are designed to work in medians with a certain slope.
The feds are really emphasize being data-driven.
Ours are too steep. And he points out that guardrails themselves can be hazards, bouncing cars back into traffic. He also says safety dollars may be better spent preventing other more common kinds of crashes, like on curves or intersections. But they are listening to first responders.
This isn't a static process.
He thinks eventually they will probably add them in. But there's still a lot of studying to do to make sure the data backs it up. They're starting to gather that now.
It's not out of the question. It's just something that we haven't considered up till now.
I spoke with Senator Dick Mazza, who's on the Transportation Committee, and asked him whether the legislature had considered funding things like interstate barriers. He told me they have not, but next session he plans to bring up distracted driving again as an issue because he says it's ultimately the driver's responsibility to stay on the road. In Richmond, Kat Villanzoni, Channel 3 News.